We go now to General Joseph Votel, former CENTCOM commander overseeing operations in the Middle East. General, it's good to have you with us. I want to pick up where we left off with the National Security Advisor. He said the U.S. has elevated threats against U.S. forces, elevated risk of the conflict spreading. What are the trigger points you are concerned about?
Thanks. Good morning, Margaret. It's good to be with you. So I think the thing that I've been concerned about, and probably many have been concerned about, is that any miscalculation along the line can move this to a different level. So, an attack on an American installation, whether it's military or diplomatic or commercial, that causes casualties, significant casualties, and death, I think could significantly change the calculus for us. And certainly a much broader attack by the so-called Iranian threat network here, whether it's Hezbollah or whether it's Iranian aligned militia groups in Syria, to broaden the conflict. I think these are all aspects that could lead to a widening of the conflict.
There have already been 20 militia attacks on U.S. forces in Syria and Iraq. There are about 19 service people who suffered from traumatic brain injuries. One contractor died. How do you understand that level of aggression?
Well, it's very clear. I mean, Iran is behind this. There are elements in Iraq and to some extent in Syria are perpetrating these attacks. And as the National Security Advisor said, we've got to hold them accountable for that. And so it is critically important to not just be responsive, but to be directly responsive, to be forceful in our manner. Ultimately, what we need to do is compel these elements and Iran, who is behind all of this, to stop this type of action right now.
In Israel, their prime minister said yesterday this is going to be a long war, and we're in the second phase. You just heard Jake Sullivan say the U.S. is still asking questions like, what exactly are the objectives? How do you describe what the IDF is doing right now in Gaza?
Well, I think what the IDF is doing is, I think that the task they've probably been given is to destroy the war-making capacity of Hamas. So they are going after command and control locations. They're going after logistics locations. They're going after headquarters locations, and they're going after the likely sites that Hamas would use to perpetrate missile strikes or rocket strikes onto Israel. So from my perspective, it's pretty clear what the Israeli military is doing. I think their job is to destroy that war-making capacity of Hamas.
Should they stop once capturing Gaza City?
Well, again, I think they'll have to make an assessment of their progress. Most of the effort now seems to be in the northern part of Gaza and around Gaza City, which I think is most people who study this will recognize are the primary areas where Hamas operates. So they've definitely directed their operations against the places where Hamas is, and I think they're actually approaching this in an incremental manner. I think we've seen introduction of additional forces over the last couple of days, so they're thinking about it that way. And of course, like any military force would do, they have to take assessments of their progress as they continue with their operations.
There is concern about another front here outside of Gaza, and I know on Wednesday, President Biden said he is alarmed by, quote, extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank in, quote, places they're entitled to be. One of Israel's government ministers, Ben-Gvir, has video of him arming Israeli civilians with M16 and M4 assault rifles. How concerned are you about an uptick in violence in the West Bank?
Well, again, I think this goes back to what we just talked about a few moments ago. This the miscalculations. I mean, this it's a tinderbox, and so when you have people that are scared, they have weapons, they're trying to protect themselves, then the chances for something going wrong in this, I think, increase. So yeah, and the rhetoric has been very strong about this, about the vulnerability and the fact that that Israeli settlers in the West Bank are targets. I mean, that's essentially what these Islamic movements have been saying. So I think it's an extraordinary critical situation. It could flow out very quickly.
General Votel, thank you for your analysis today.